Hi, friends, and welcome to the Dreamer and Doer podcast. I'm your host, Bree Johnson. I designed this space to be a place that we can discuss dreaming big despite the setbacks and fears that come with it. I invite you to come along this journey with me as we embrace our stories and share our journeys. So let's dream big together and get intentional about making it happen. Hello, dreamers and doers. Oh my word. I cannot believe that it has been since October since I last recorded an episode, and we will definitely dive into more of why that happened. But I just want to say I am so happy to be back. I have missed recording podcasts so much. Man, I can't believe it's been 3 months. But I'm so excited to be back. So welcome to the very first episode of 2019. I don't know about you, but I can still hardly believe that it is 2019 and that we're halfway through the month of January. I hope that you had the most amazing holiday season, that it was full of love and hope and joy. We kind of took some time off to just be a family. I'm not going to lie, I hit a little bit of burnout as the year went on. We just had lots of shows. Really, things kind of took off with Salt and Light, and it was a lot to maintain both. But now that we're back in January, we're just kind of finding our rhythm again, getting it going. Part of that process for me was to pick a word for the year. And I don't know about you, whether you make resolutions or choose your word for the year. Maybe you have seen people talk about it, and maybe you're just kind of over hearing about New Year's resolutions and your word for the year already, but I'm going to talk about it. So last year, my word for the year was release. And as I had prayed and thought over that word, it just made so much sense. I felt like we were finally going to be released into moving. Which, let me go back and say that it wasn't just released, it was also past tense, so released. So it felt like we were released to move from our hometown to pursue a new city. I felt like I was releasing things to God, a moment of surrender for me. I wrote a little bit more on my Instagram. It goes a little bit more in depth on what that word meant to me, but it was really such a year of release, being released into dreams that we had been thinking about for years. And honestly, as I ended 2018, I felt so much lack of vision for 2019. I felt like one of two things. One, I felt like so much had happened that there wasn't anything left to happen in 2019. I didn't know what to dream. I didn't know what to think about for the podcast or for the business. I was just kind of empty. I felt like I was staring at this wall and there was no way to go around it. Then also thought I had made so many mistakes in 2018 that I set myself up for failure in 2019. And so really dumb things. I guess in a way I felt like I had the spoon and I dipped like too much of God's goodness out, and he didn't have anything for me in 2019, and that could not be further from the truth. So I had to take a couple weeks and really do some soul searching and figure out why am I not dreaming? Where do I go from here? And I won't say like everything's worked out and perfect now, but I feel like I have a little bit better grasp on where I want to go, things I want to change up. Now it's just a matter of implementing them and not getting distracted. So far, one of the things that I've been trying to implement is waking up earlier. And at first it was really hard, but I'm doing it now and actually really like it. I just need to keep convincing myself that it is worth it and good. I'm only like 2 weeks in now, so I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm going to do a check-in. I'll let you know in a couple months if it's still working out for me. So along with the release from 2018, I really wanted to find a word for 2019. And the word that kept coming up for me was the word intentional. And as I thought about that word, I realized how much of the moments that I have, I'm not being intentional with them. I'm just kind of coasting through them or waiting for the next moment. And for me, I needed to find that self-discipline, sit down and really be intentional. I'm going to say intentionable instead of intentional about, probably 100 times, but it is what it is. Anyway, so I want to really be intentional with my time this year. And so with that, I've kind of gotten the word live intentionally. And for me, that just means being conscious of, hey, when I pick up the phone, am I being intentional with this? Or am I just wasting time by scrolling on social media? That's probably been my biggest distraction and hurdle is my phone. Gosh, raise your hand. Anyone else? Or is it just me? I'm pretty sure it's not. It can be such a time waster. I heard Christy Wright say that she has her social media apps under a folder called time wasters. And I think I'm going to change mine just so I'm conscious of like, hey, do I really need to be here? If I'm on social media, I want it to be intentional about it growing my business or posting out the podcast, not just scrolling. And like, come on. I think we've even gotten so used to social media that we don't even stop to like or comment or engage with people anymore. It's just like scroll, 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 scroll. I am really anxious to see how many people in our generation have major thumb arthritis by the time we are probably 40. Anyway, so I just want to be intentional. I want to be intentional about the foods I'm eating. Do I really need to treat my emotions, which is really a downfall for me? If I'm feeling overwhelmed, I will kind of binge and just indulge in things I shouldn't to try and make myself feel better. So if I'm intentional, how about not going towards the food, but going towards the person who gives me life, and that's Jesus. I really want to be intentional about who I'm giving my time to, what I'm saying yes to, down to the little things. Like every single moment we are giving our time away, and time is non-refundable. That's all we get. Like what the time we have, that's all we get. There's no going back. And along with being intentional and living intentional for 2019, I've kind of decided that I'm going to even take a word for each month to focus on. And so for January, that word for me has been refresh. How do I get refreshed joy, refreshed vision, refreshed dreaming? So I just really want to focus on how I can renew and refresh this month. And it's funny because as I get these words on my radar, I don't know if it's just like God putting them across my path or confirming that those are the things I need to focus on, or I'm just more hyper aware. But it seems like as soon as I chose those words, it starts popping up for me everywhere. So it's a great reminder to stay in a state of renewal. So that's it about 2019. I really wanted to do like a quick overview of 2018 and what that year was like for us. I think that will kind of give you an idea of why the podcast just kind of dropped off the face of the earth in October. So to give you a review of 2018, we have to go back to last January. Last January, I had the really unique and fun opportunity to travel to Costa Rica. I fell in love with that country. It is so beautiful. I wasn't even there very long, just like 4 days. I was leading a kind of retreat with a friend and leading my Revelation Wellness class. And I had so much fun just being in community with people, especially people who are different from me that I had never met before from all over the country, leading them in this workout and just encouraging them in their heart, mind, soul, and body. But the first day we were there, I was like, you know what? I want to be adventurous. I am alone besides a few women that had gotten there a day early. I want to explore this country. So I figured out how to go to the bus station and buy a bus ticket, get on the bus, took the bus to the beach for an hour and a half. And while I was at the bus station, I got to buy some local pastries and juices. And a little fun fact about myself is I really like the show The Amazing Race. And so every time I travel or anytime I'm doing something challenging, I like to pretend like I'm on The Amazing Race. And that I have to do well at this task so I can win, because I always joke that one day I'm going to be on it. Mark my words. It is for sure a dream of mine. I've been trying to convince my brother, but he keeps saying no, it's fine. Anyway, so I just had really fun on that trip. And then in that same month, I got to lead a workout class at another retreat for a group of women. And it was such a great time to spend in the Word and be really focused and intentional about the year ahead. And that's when I really felt like God gave me the word release. And if you've listened to any of the podcasts or been on my Instagram, you know that I've talked about how I felt like God told me to unclench my fists, just open them and see what he had for me instead of holding on to the things that I was supposed to give to him. So that's kind of where that word and vision came for me. So for me, being able to start off the year doing those two things, it really brought a lot of life and hope to me. I really got to spend some time not being a mom or a wife and just focus on what God had for me and find what I wanted to focus on that year. And as we entered into the year, we knew that we wanted to move. So let's fast forward to about the end of February. Revelation Wellness did their Rev on the Road in Baytown, Texas, and I got to be a part of the team by photographing it. And I love getting to combine those two passions of photography and Revelation Wellness together. And I got to photograph this incredible weekend. And I remember about this point, we were like 80% sure we were moving to Waco and 20% like maybe it won't work out. And as I told the group of people there that I was moving to Waco, this lady found me afterwards, and to make a long story short, had essentially told me that her daughter and her family moved to Waco within the past year, and it had been this incredible experience, and that they really loved Waco, and they felt like God had been calling them there, and they were going to the same church that we had planned to go to when we moved there. So I just remember crying and being like, okay, I think we're really doing this. It's really going to happen. And so that week, my husband put in his 2 weeks notice to his job. That was absolutely terrifying because it was such a leap of faith. Like, we knew we were going to be quitting. He quit, I think, like middle of March, right before our first big event at the boho market. And it was just like, okay, we're doing this. Like, we are stepping out of this fear and pursuing something we really felt like God was calling us to. So we did the boho market, and at the boho market on the way home is when I finally got the name for my podcast. And I had told Kendall for probably a year and a half that I wanted to start one. And he would be like, you should start that podcast. I'd be like, yeah, what am I going to talk about? What's it going to be about? And I could never figure it out. And as we're on the way home, I was like, the Dreamer and Doer podcast. That's what we should call it, because that is such a huge passion of mine. And I love getting to dream, and I love getting to encourage others in their dream. And so as we're in the car on the way home, I like put together this little icon, the one that you see in your iTunes, and was like, look, let's do this. And he said, I've been waiting for you to say yes. I've had this stuff in the cart on Amazon for months now. Just order it. So on the way home, we ordered this stuff, and we're like, we're doing this. We are going to start a podcast. Now, of course, in the middle of this, we are packing up our house. We are moving out at the end of March. Also in March, Mila turned 2, and we threw her the most precious alpaca my bags party. Our daughter loves llamas and alpacas. Honestly, I've probably encouraged it because I love them too. But yeah, hard to believe that we celebrated her being 2 this past year, and we're about to celebrate her being 3 in just a month and a half. So at the end of March, we were doing it. We're moving to Waco. And so in April, right after Easter, I think it was like April 2nd, we loaded our cars and we drove to Waco. We ended up living with some friends of ours for like a month. And y'all, that month, while I'm so thankful for our friends that shared their home with us, as a mom, it was really hard. I am traumatized. Just kidding. A little bit. But it was such an adjustment on our kids. And I was wrestling with like, wow, I am so terrible. Why did I tear my kids away from everything they've ever known, all of our family, to move to this city where we know absolutely no one except for 2 people? And I don't know why I had this fear that I wouldn't make any friends, that I just like wouldn't be accepted into the culture here, which sounds super lame, but whatever. These are real thoughts in my head. And I wouldn't make any friends, that people would think I was just too out there. Like I said, it sounds really stupid now. And even one of my friends, she was like, you've literally never had trouble making friends. I'm like, I know this. It's just scary. I've never had to move outside of my comfort zone as an adult with kids and in a marriage, you know? So more specifically with kids, that's what I was most worried about. But as soon as we got here, I joined a mom's group. And in that mom's group, I met a girl. Before I go too far into the story of meeting her, we were looking for a house. We just hadn't been able to find one that we really liked in our budget, that sort of thing. So we were living with our friends until we found one. And so we were just praying about it, praying God would lead us to the right house, that he would put connections together for us to find one. And so day 3 of being in Waco, I'm in this mom's group and a girl at my table hears our story and she asked me if we need a house. And I was like, yeah, we just haven't been able to find one. We don't know what neighborhoods we want to look at. We're just kind of waiting to see what's there now that we're here. Well, she goes on to tell me that her and her husband are going to be moving in May to California, and if we would be interested in looking in their house. I was like, yeah, sure, we're interested in looking at it. And y'all, we came to the house and I was like, this is perfect. Like, one of our requirements was that there would be a room, an extra room for the boutique. I say requirements, like a want list, that, you know, there would be a garage. And anyway, it ended up being the perfect little house. And for whatever reason, I just like had this feeling we'd be in this new house by my birthday before I even met our friend. And what would you know? We moved into our house the weekend of my birthday. But man, it has been such a blessing. So we've been here in this house now. Summer, we just got to really enjoy being in Waco, exploring our new city, being as a family for the first time in years, because Kendall had worked a job that kept him out of the home most of the day. So that in itself was a transition of getting used to being in the same house together all the time. A transition, I will say that. So we're just going to go ahead and fast forward to about August. At this point in August, we knew we were going to be vendors at Celebration at Magnolia Market, which was one of my dreams for 2020. But it happened in 2018. To this day, I'm still like, what? How did that happen? But I'm so thankful it did. But back in August, I stressed myself out so much about this event. I stressed myself out so much that I reactivated dormant mono in my system. So the stress had me breaking out in hives, running fever. I had headaches. Like, I was just miserable. I thought I was dying. That sounds so dramatic, but I even remember laying in bed telling Kendall, I said, what if I go to the doctor tomorrow and they tell me I have cancer? Like, what if this is cancer in my body? That's how terrible I felt. I knew it probably wasn't going to happen, but I just felt really, really sick and that something was seriously wrong. But thankfully, I was able to get that cleared up and felt so much better and finally felt like myself again to really go into planning for Celebration. And I kind of talked a little bit about it on the podcast or on my Instagram, but it was a really weird season for me. I had never really been sick like that, and it felt debilitating. So if you are out there struggling with an autoimmune disorder, or anything like that, that just really puts you out, like I have struggled with you. I know it is hard. And you're going to feel like people think you're making excuses, but just know, I know you're not. You're not. You feel bad. So as the anticipation built to Celebration, we had the time of our life in October. The weather was not that great. Really unfortunate, but people still showed up. They came out, they shopped our clothes. I think in the first hour we had like broken a personal record day. So that was really humbling and cool to experience. And as we moved through the weekend, we met so many amazing people, vendors. Y'all, my favorite message that I got from post-Celebration, I had posted a picture of myself like helping this girl shop for a jumpsuit. And there's a couple other people in the picture. So I had posted something that said, when I look at this picture, I see a girl doing something she loves with joy and passion. What you can't see in this photo are the nights I have wrestled with self-doubt, anxiety, stress, and the weight of never feeling enough. Sharing our story, helping people find clothes that they feel good in and can purchase with purpose, makes all those hard moments 110% worth it. And then I get this message after posting the picture from this girl. Essentially, she tells me that she has binge listened to the podcast and that she's had this business idea for a while that she wanted to start. And she finally felt encouraged after going to Celebration, meeting people like me, other entrepreneurs, listening to Chip and Joanna speak, Johnny Swim, Drew Holcomb, and she just really felt like she left with a passion to do something. So she had, at this point, had already contacted like a business advisor, mentor to see what she could do to start this. And she said she had talked to me this day, which I hate that I don't remember, but there were so many people, and that she loved hearing our story. They bought the jumpsuits. And then as she was doubting herself, she opens Instagram and she is in the picture I posted. and she was so excited, like just to see that. And I think it's so cool. So yeah, celebration was amazing. We got to end Saturday night at the Johnny Swim concert, and Kendall just like danced with me on the lawn. We were the only people dancing and felt so goofy, but we had so much fun. I didn't even care. Like, we were just on cloud nine. And so as we ended celebration, I was like, yes, we finally get a break. We can rest. Nope, not the case at all. Celebration was like a launch pad to holiday season, and we just had show after show after show after show. I was even doing shows during the week, and it just got to be exhausting. And about a week before Christmas, I was like, I'm done. I had some other shows planned, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And because of that, the podcast just really fell off the face of the earth, and I'm so sorry. And I hope that you will continue to listen, because I have so many amazing things planned for 2019, and I want you here for it. So yeah, end of the year, a little rough. It was just like one big blur. I don't even remember half the things that happened, because it was just one thing after another. Our sweet Mila. Oh, since I've mentioned Mila's birthday, I should also mention Ezra turned 4 in October. Goodness, full of energy all the time. And yeah, those two, they definitely keep us busy when we're not doing the business. But we had the best holiday season with them. They were both finally at ages where they could really enjoy and take in everything and understand. So we had so much fun doing holiday things as a family. So while I knew we were busy doing holiday shows and getting ready for Christmas and spending time with families, I knew that other business owners would be doing the same, and it was just really hard to connect with anyone and get stuff booked. I didn't really have anything to say, and I don't want to just be like, say things just to say things. I like to actually mean it and feel it and lived it before I really like share it with you. So that's kind of why the podcast took a back seat. But here we are. It's 2019. I have about 20 to 25 guests lined up. We just have to finalize dates. I'm going to be changing the questions, the kind of whole basis of it. Like, I've learned that I am super passionate about storytelling and telling people stories. And as you could tell throughout the end of the podcast, it did take more of a like storytelling role, interviewing versus like talking about businesses rather than talking about business stuff. And there will still be talk of business, but like, that's not my niche. I've learned that my gift is encouragement. I actually just took a like spiritual gifts assessment at church. My top one was encouragement, and it made so much sense. So I want to be able to live out in that encouragement. I want to be an encouragement to you. And so just figuring out ways that I can best serve you. We even have some guys lined up. We plan to have Kendall on here more. Speaking of Kendall, he just started a job with the local aquaponics greenhouse here in Waco. And you guys, I am so happy for him. He is still full-time Salt and Light. This is just like a little extra gig, something he loves doing. Who knows where it will take us. But now he gets to help this local nonprofit grow their aquaponics system, which is something we had been a part of in the Amazon a couple years ago anyway. So it's really good for him. All right, so this podcast episode ended up being way longer than I was anticipating. I didn't realize I had that much to say. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Please, if you've enjoyed listening, I would love if you gave us a like, subscribed. I don't think you can like on podcasts, so I lied. Just like and subscribe, share with your friends. Honestly, I think I've said this before. It really, not that I need you to encourage me, but I like when you do. So if you're like, oh, I don't know what to say to her, but you want to, just reach out. I would love to chat with you. That's part of the whole encouragement thing. I can't really encourage you if you don't let me get to know you as well, if that makes sense. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in today, and I can't wait to catch you back on the Dreamer and Doer podcast. If there's anything that you want me to cover, anyone you want me to interview, please message me and let me know. Love you guys, and happy 2019.